As the saying goes, you can't fit a round peg into a square hole. Emerging research indicates that autism affects males and females differently and suggests that these differences could cause females to go undiagnosed. If you are on the spectrum or know someone who is, learning about recent studies regarding sex differences will help you have a better understanding of ASD. I worked in the field for 7 years as an early intervention behavior therapist for children with ASD, and it was a common known fact that autism is more prevalent in males than females. However, this may not be completely accurate. In order to understand the disparity in diagnosis of autism between males and females, it's important to first understand what the autism spectrum disorder is, the differences between males and females on the spectrum, and the effect on females when left undiagnosed. First, let's begin by discussing what the autism spectrum disorder is. ASD is a broad term used for people who fall on the spectrum. Autism is considered a spectrum disorder because it is characterized by a variety of symptoms. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website, last updated August 2019, these symptoms include impairments in the following areas: measured intelligence, social interaction, communication, behaviors, sensory, and motor skills. Psychology PhD student Victoria Milner explains in an article in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders titled "A Qualitative Exploration of the Female Experience of ASD" of February 2019 that since people with autism tend to have difficulty socializing, they can be misunderstood as having little interest in others. Autism is usually detected during childhood. Currently, 1 out of 54 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with autism. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website, last updated September 2020. Research associate Eva Kosovska explains in an article in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders titled "The Rising Prevalence of Autism, a Prospective Longitudinal Study in the Faroe Islands" of January 2012 that, due to a lack of information about females on the spectrum, some females were not diagnosed during childhood but received a diagnosis later in life. Now that you understand what ASD is and who it affects, next we will determine the sex differences between those on the spectrum. Autism affects males and females differently. A concern in the autism community is that females have gone underdiagnosed. Developmental behavioral pediatrician Yamini Howe explains in an article in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders titled "Female Autism Phenotypes Investigated at Different Levels of Language and Developmental Abilities" of June 2015 that males are 4 times more likely than females to be diagnosed with autism. Detecting autism in women and girls can be difficult because they may act more similarly to their peers. Howe explains in her journal article that females with ASD that have good speaking skills tend to have better social skills than males with ASD. Milner explains in the aforementioned journal article that females on the spectrum have described hiding their autistic traits in social situations in order to fit in with their social surrounding. I'd like to show you a quick example of what acting similarly to peers looks like by bringing up a guest. Tyler, please come up. Hi, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nat. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Alrighty. Thank you, Tyler. You can go ahead and sit down. As you can see, just by Tyler orienting his body towards me, making eye contact, and saying something similar, this is a good example of acting similarly to peers and is an example that we do in our everyday life. Now that you understand how autism affects males and females differently, lastly, we will discuss how going undiagnosed affects females. When females are undiagnosed, they are expected to fit into a mold that wasn't made for them. Females that go undiagnosed are misunderstood. Milner explains in her journal article that Some females that were not diagnosed during childhood explain being labeled as a problem child. She also says that autistic females have reported that going undiagnosed made it difficult to understand themselves. When females are underdiagnosed, they miss opportunities for support. People with autism may need different levels of support in academic and social skills, for example. Milner explains that females with ASD can experience difficulties in establishing and maintaining relationships if they don't receive support in these areas. Through these examples, you can now see how being misdiagnosed can make females feel misunderstood and how missing opportunities for support can have negative effects. In conclusion, to this day, females are going underdiagnosed in comparison to males with ASD. By identifying sex differences and understanding the female perspective of ASD, females are now being represented in autism. Learning about the female perspective of autism is a pivotal moment in history. I am excited for all of the little girls on the spectrum who may have been previously overlooked to finally be seen and to receive the support they need. Thank you.